Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world, one book at a time. You ever feel that? It's the strange paradox, right? We live in a society that prides itself on freedom, but so many of us feel, well, powerless. To really get why, we've got to dig a little deeper and look at the hidden systems of power that are actually shaping our world. And that's where this explainer comes in. We're diving into Noam Chomsky's power systems. Now, this isn't your typical book. It's actually a collection of interviews, and what it uncovers is pretty mind-blowing. It shows how power keeps itself going not so much by brute force, but by managing what we believe and actively pulling us apart from each other.
So you might be asking, how on earth does that even work? I mean, we're told we live in a democracy, right? We have the right to vote, to speak up. But what if there are these powerful forces working just beneath the surface, making sure that when we do participate, it doesn't really change much? Well, according to Chomsky, it's basically a two-pronged attack. Think of it like two engines running at the same time. The first one is all about engineering consent, basically controlling how we think, what we believe, and even what we imagine is possible. The other engine is focused on dismantling solidarity, and that's all about weakening the bonds between people, breaking apart that sense of community. These two things work together, and honestly, understanding how they do is the key to the whole thing.
All right, so let's tackle that first engine, this whole idea of engineering consent. I mean, how do you even manufacture what people believe? It kind of starts with this surprisingly honest and pretty unsettling idea from the folks who first started thinking about public relations. Yeah, take a look at this quote. It's from a guy named Walter Lippmann, who was a huge figure in early public relations. He called the public, get this, the bewildered herd. His whole argument was that regular people are just too emotional, too irrational to run things themselves. So you needed this small, intelligent elite to kind of guide them, to protect them from themselves. And that way of thinking, that's what gave birth to the entire modern PR industry. See, its job was never really to inform people, it was to persuade them. The logic is pretty straightforward. If you can't control people by force anymore, you have to control how they think. The ultimate goal is to create a public of, well, uninformed consumers who make irrational choices, and it doesn't matter if that's in the shopping mall or the voting booth. So how do you do it? Simple. You get people focused on, as one economist put it, the superficial things in life. You know, consumer gadgets, fashion, celebrity gossip, all the distractions. The more we're focused on that stuff, the more we become just passive spectators instead of active players in our own democracy. Okay, so that's one side of the coin. But just controlling what people think isn't quite enough. There's that second engine, remember? Power also has to break the bonds between us. Because, let's face it, a group of people who feel connected and united are way, way harder to control. And according to Chomsky, any institution that's built on this idea of solidarity, the simple concept that we should look out for each other, that's seen as a huge threat to concentrated private power. So these institutions become targets. Think about things like public education, Social Security, and labor unions. But why those? Well, think about what they all have in common. They're all about community and mutual support. I mean, you pay taxes so a kid you don't even know can get an education. You contribute to Social Security so a total stranger can retire with some dignity. That whole we're all in this together idea, it's the complete opposite of the every person for themselves mindset that really benefits the powerful.
And then you have labor unions. Historically, they've been this massive force for solidarity among working people. The former head of the UAW, Doug Fraser, actually called the fight against them a one-sided class war. And he's got a point. The business community has fought tooth and nail to weaken unions because when workers band together, they have real collective power.
So you have these two things happening at once. You're manipulating people's beliefs while also breaking down their communities. What's the end result? Well, it's a condition that Chomsky and others call atomization. Atomization, it's a powerful metaphor, right? It's this idea of society being broken down into a bunch of isolated individuals, like single atoms just floating around, not connected to anything. It's about creating a world where everyone feels totally alone, totally on their own. And when people feel that way, they're much easier to control and push the margins. And you can imagine the effect this have on a democracy is, well, it's devastating. When we're all disconnected, how are you supposed to organize for change? Collective action seems impossible. You start to feel helpless, isolated. And if you're not talking to your neighbors, if you're not sharing ideas, it becomes a whole lot harder to push back against the stories you're being told by those in power.
So once you start to see this framework, it changes how you look at everything.
You start to realize that the endless political debates and media dramas we see every day, they aren't just random arguments. A lot of the time, they're the totally predictable outcome of these deeper forces at play, this constant push to engineer our consent and break down our solidarity. You can literally see the system at work, pushing us towards crises like massive inequality or environmental breakdown, and it doesn't seem to matter who's in charge.
And that leaves us with a really crucial question, doesn't it? If the whole system is designed to break us apart and make us feel isolated, then what does effective resistance even look like? How do you fight back in a world that's built to keep you from ever coming together? This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis and Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a longer, audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.